What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here today, and I'm excited to have the opportunity to have an amazing player, Darren. Do you want to say hi?
Hi, how's it going, folks?
And what did you do at BCS Rosemont?
BCS Rosemont, I made top 8 in V and Premium.
Nice. And did you also do something else in V?
Oh, yeah, in V, I also qualified for Worlds.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't know how I can leave out that.
We could already tell Premium is a little more exciting for you.
But yeah, I love it.
But you still qualify for Worlds, at least in one of the formats, which is, still great.
It's true.
So kudos to you, for real. That shows your hard work and dedication, especially since you multi-top in the same regional. That's very big too.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy weekend. I still can't even really explain what happened, but that second day when I made top 8, man, I can't even explain the amount of emotion I was feeling. I was like, wow.
I bet. It's like, I did it again.
I did it again. and it was funny too, because I bubbled in at X2. So,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, I was 14th going into the last round, and when I won. So I was like, I don't know. I was talking to my buddies. I was like, I think I'm cooked, because all my tiebreakers lost at the same time. So all my tiebreakers that I was hoping no one needed them to win, they all just lost. I was like, oh.
Yeah, okay. The tiebreakers are really weird too.
Really weird, because I was like, oh, both my tiebreakers lost. I'm cooked. I can't get in.
Yeah.
Then I win, and when I looked down at my wishing app and I refreshed it, and I literally loaded in at 8th. Oh man.
We're doing this, boys. That's
like,
what's
we
really
did it
cool.
Again, boys. Oh.
Exactly. And today may be a little bit of a longer interview for the viewers too. We're going to cover both tops. It'll be more quicker with V Premium with Nightrose, and then he'll go a lot more in depth with OTT and Premium. I know some of you are probably more excited for OTT because it's very unique. It's not very seen. Nightrose is still great. Don't get me wrong. Love granblue. Place in my heart. And so let's start it off. So where are you from? What's some of the communities you guys go locally?
So I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, and our primary locals is Dark Side Games, and we're a bit of a medium community. We have around 30 players, but they're 30 consistent players. They show up pretty frequently.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah. Also, we have some I guess pretty strong players, you can guess. My friend Curtis, the NOK player at Rosemont, won the whole thing.
That's right.
Yeah, and he was my only loss in Swiss. So
nice. Was that for a V or for Premium?
Premium.
Premium. Okay, gotcha.
He played against 3 Norokamis and somehow managed to beat all of them out.
How many?
Yeah, he played against 3 Norokamis with NOK.
Oh, okay, 3 in a row. Wow. Okay, gotcha.
Which was his worst matchup. He was really hoping he didn't play against her. But I don't know. He still managed to pull it out somehow. So yeah, we have some really great players indeed.
No, that's good.
I don't know. I mean, I wish our logos was bigger, obviously. If anybody wants to come to Vegas and play, that'd be great. But
yeah, they don't really have BCS events in Vegas. I know Yu-Gi-Oh has the YCS Vegas events.
Exactly. And I always wonder, I was like, man, but Vegas would be such a great venue for BCS.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess it's I can explain it.
Yeah. I don't know how they decide on that either. But since you have a consistent locals, you have some strong players, which kind of leads me to transition. What is the preparation that you did, your mindset going into, BCS Rosemont?
So going into BCS Rosemont, the preparation was weird, right? Because we have a medium-sized locals, but not too many people really want to hop on and play games, right? So it was really up to me to really look at the landscape of the format, figure out what decks are doing what. So I did a psychotic thing, I guess. I pretty much built every history collection deck, played it.
Wow.
Seeing what they all did, seeing what they all could do, what their extensions were, what they didn't like.
Yeah.
And I just figured out how to attack them all. And then after looking at the landscape of the format, I made my pick.
Nice. And that's sometimes you like one of those things you have to lean on is like you kind of almost brute force it where you're like, let me play every deck, what they got, and then assess it with what I know from like probably social media or like YouTube and things like that for the recent BCSs.
Exactly. But it was funny, right? Because at the very end of my plays, I'm like, all right, well, I've tested almost every history deck. I've built them all to how I felt they were most optimal. But at the very end, Melissa starts picking up some steam. I'm like, oh, I'm like, what's this?
I was getting attention. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I see it. I'm like, oh. So I actually start testing Melissa. And I was like, that's close to bringing Melissa. But on my very last day of playtesting, I was like, it just isn't consistent enough. It doesn't, you'll win, like in an 8-round event, you'll win 5 games. But that's not enough to make top 8.
True.
So I decided against Melissa. I really stuck to my pick of what I had been live-ing the months prior. And I was like, okay, well, OTT is the way to go.
Gotcha. So that was your premium preparation, essentially. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Cool. And what about V Premium? Anything on that? Or was it similar?
I didn't play test a single second in V.
The one you qualify Worlds. Really? I mean, the format hasn't really changed.
No, I hadn't changed in like 3 years.
Yeah.
So I just used the knowledge of what I had when I was playing back in 2020.
Yeah, literally. Like during COVID, basically.
Yeah.
But yeah, like knowing your matchups and metagame knowledge, like it's still like useful. You don't have to work as hard as I like to phrase it. So that's really good. So I guess that leads me into the actual deck list, so we can actually pull up your deck list now. So going into Nightrose for V, just highlight some of the things that you feel like are worth highlighting, and if you want to discuss some points, feel free to as well.
So the main thing I really want to highlight is that we're only paying 2 Sea Strolling Banshees, which I've seen some lists playing 4 because they really like to have her as their optimal ride target to really find your Beatrice so you don't brick. Yeah. But I was like, what if I could get away with 2? I mean, it was really just a place of greed, honestly. I mean, I really wanted to fit in more
other stuff.
Navigators. Yeah. So I was like, we could get away with 2. And funny enough, I rolled this in half of my games.
Wow, just having the 2. Yeah.
Yeah, I rolled Sea Strolling in 4 games. So I mean, 2 looked like it was popping off a little bit. We're on the 1 draw PG, which I know some people think is questionable, but I don't know. I like having my magic draw. My magic draw resolved 3 times that day. And
like a drive check or damage check? Nice.
Actually, they were all damage checks. So they were all damage check draws.
Nice.
And that really came up clutch. It actually helped me pull out one of my games against Ange because they swung and I drew into a Sentinel crit. And that really helped me guard.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can have a lot of crit pressure with Nightrose, but then like having like 1 or 2 PG draws like can go a long way still. Yep.
Absolutely. But everything else is really standard. The 1 Jesse, you gotta have your Garnet that can countercharge. You can search it plenty of ways. So it's always good to have because people will try to deny you. I've had a lot of people try to deny you in that event. Like nobody ever gives you Columbard. It's so rare if you can resolve this card on turn 2 because everybody just knows. The format's been the same for 3 years, so everybody just knows what you're trying to do.
Yeah. With that being said, with countercharging, what made you decide over Jesse versus like Cutlass, for example?
Cutlass was good, but what made me pick Jesse was I would have to dedicate multiple slots to Cutlass. Yeah. To get the countercharge. So just to save deck space, I was like, okay, I'll get Jesse. Jesse can still make magic numbers against Excel.
Yep.
With the Nightrose, and I was like, yeah, this is the right pick. Looking back at it, maybe I should have cut a Greed Shade down to 3 to fit something else in. Probably another Sea Strolling Banshee.
Just to hell with that.
But the Greed, I mean, this card came up so clutch. There was 2 games where I bricked on Nightrose. So I pitched it with Columbard.
Yep.
Called Ship, called Greed Shade, resolved Greed Shade, got my Nightrose.
Yeah,
and
so good.
Just got free value down for finding my ride. So I think he's an absolute 3 to 4 of. It's personal preference, really. But if you like greed, I mean, it's in the name.
Yeah, literally.
It's in the name. Play 4 for sure. I even speaking with the champion Nightrose, I didn't see his list. I don't know if he was playing 4, but Nightrose, man. When I was playing in Swiss, everybody was like, "You brought Nightrose?" I was like, "Yeah, man."
You dissing me?
They're like, "No, you're crazy. It's in an Excel meta." I'm like, the Force decks will get him.
I like my odds.
I like my odds, and I only played against 3 Excels the whole day. I played against Davis,
Mm-hmm.
I played against Hamske, and I played against Leopold. I lost against Leopold. Unfortunately, I did not get to play the game that game. I didn't get to ride Nightrose.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, that's rough.
Yeah, that's an auto loss. And then I managed to beat Davis. I went first. I cheesed him. I double crit him, guys. I double crit him. But that's
done a little bit with Columbard and a few other cards. Yeah,
it's true. Granblue surprisingly decked in a scary amount. Like if you're not milling triggers, they have to be somewhere. So
right, they'll come out one way or another.
Exactly. So I double crit him. He died on my turn 3 actually.
Ooh. Yeah, he didn't get a chance to play Thought as well.
No. And then the Hamske, I also double crit the Hamske.
That works.
So it's the 11 crits.
I was gonna say too, like with Navigator, like how often did you see Navigator? Did you mill a lot during your rounds, or?
Navigator, I saw him almost every round.
Good.
I resolved Navigator probably about 8 times in the tournament total.
Yeah, that's really good.
He was mostly just like, oh man, I'm really starving for pieces. I need to mill.
Yeah.
Or
that accelerates the deck. Yeah.
Yeah. Or it's like, okay, well, I'm not getting another turn, so I'm just gonna mill everything I can to make these dragons unguardable. I actually had one game where I was playing against Ange, and my first dragon swing was 95.
Holy crap.
My opponent just kind of looked at his hand, looked at the dragons, and was like, yeah, no guard.
Ange thought they can make big numbers too.
Ange is very scary.
It is,
very scary guy.
It's kind of funny, yeah.
Especially when they open the Pearl Sisters. I'm like, all right. Well.
Yes, they're really good. How did top 8 work out? Because I know you got 3rd.
Yes. So first round of top 8, I played the Hamske. I went first. That's pretty important in this format. Mm-hmm. And I was speaking with Ty before the round, and I was like, how do you beat this deck? I don't play V. What does Hamske even do? And he's like, I don't know either, but just rush him. He's like, I don't know, just rush him. I was like,
all right, yeah, when in doubt, just rush.
Good talk. So
the Vanguard answer for like 10 plus years.
Straight.
I don't know, just rush him.
I don't know what to do, bro. Just rush him. And you know what? It was some valid advice. I just rushed him. I put my chips down. He rushed me, so he gave me the counterblast for Columbard that I hadn't had all day.
So this is what it feels to pop off.
I was like, oh, this is what power feels like.
Right.
So I just rush him down. He's at like 3. He's already at 3 on my turn 3. I swing Van. I have 2 ships up. I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to do here? He slams down a 2 to pass. I look at my hand. I look at my drop. I'm like, well, I have seen 0 triggers.
Oh, man.
Crit all effects.
Oh.
And he's just looking at his hand. He's like, yeah, no guard. He goes to 6, but he miracle heals.
Oh, okay.
He miracle heals. I swing with the other ships. He survives. He goes to his turn. He puts down his board. But he messed up. He misplaced his board, so his ham scale was not able to resolve, and he wasn't able to get his rewrite off because he misplaced his board, unfortunately. I was really looking forward to seeing this combo too, but I was like, oh, well.
And you still don't know what the deck does.
I still don't know what it does. I still don't know what it does. I've only heard the horror stories of what happened to the other people in Swiss. I still have no idea what the heck the deck is supposed to do. I'm like, oh, like I was reading all his cards in Top 8. I was like, okay, sure.
Sure, proceed.
Yeah, proceed. I don't know what's happening. Oh man, but yeah, V was a really fun day. Obviously, it's V, so there's not too much to explain.
Right.
But V can actually be kind of skill dependent. I mean, having no OT really helps.
Yes.
I hate that card with a passion, but it can be really skill expressive if you look past the power creep and go first to win.
Yeah, and I feel like TCGs have that in multiple seasons of their like lifespan. Like Yu-Gi-Oh is a good point sometimes. Like power creep is really real in Yu-Gi-Oh, for example.
Very real.
And you have to look past through that too, where like, okay, like the skill level and the matchup knowledge and all this stuff still matters, right?
Exactly.
So that's how I view it, at least with V. So with that being said, you want to transition to OTT Premium?
Oh, yes. All
OTT
right.
Premium. And so I do have a specific question. And I know you mentioned you tested all decks to your build. So why OTT of all 24 plus clans?
So as I was testing all the decks, I just looked at OTT's matchup spread and I was like, this deck really doesn't have a true bad matchup, because most decks have like that matchup that they just cannot win.
Yeah.
And this isn't one of those decks. It does have hard matchups, yes, but all of them are winnable. At worst, I would say this deck's worst matchup is a coin flip.
A coin flip?
It's a coin flip.
So you want to go first or second?
You want to go first, always first. Premium, I feel, is going first format right now. You want to go first. You want to get your markers.
Yeah, so you can maximize out of that.
Yes.
So that's why you play the 4 Susanoo in this case.
Yes, because some people was like, "Oh, you can play 2/2." I was like, I don't want to break.
Yeah,
having the D1 just makes it harder to get a good hand. So I would just play the old one. So yeah, that's why I maxed out on this. I know a lot of people are wondering about Reverence Rush. He's the MVP.
Yeah, you literally used it on me to heal a couple times, I think.
Yeah, this card is just a heal trigger.
Yeah,
that's really what he's there for. He's just an extra heal. You can stack your grade 3 heals on top of the deck with him, and then there's a few ways to resolve it. So if you're going first, obviously, if you feel your opponent's pushing you too hard and you need to back up, just stack it, drive check it. Or if you want to get a little spicy, you can, like, if you're going second, you can stack it, resolve it with Dragon King, get it back to your hand, call a grade 3 searcher, grab something, pitch it, use another one, stack it again, heal again. So that's your real way of surviving. You stay low, you soak your damage, And with this deck, obviously it's OTT, so you can stack triggers and you can make
The Amaterasu plays.
So that's a big part of it. I know going through the list, some people were wondering that I didn't play Hanali.
Oh yeah, good point.
2 reasons. One, it's a very combo heavy deck, so I needed all my pieces in the deck.
Yeah.
I didn't really know what to cut for Hanali. And 2, you don't really need Hanali. I mean, Hanali is good, it does help, but when you're at like 1 damage, I would hope you're not going from 1 to 6 with like a 14 card hand. So
right.
That's my primary reason. Like, you could play Hanali, or you can just
heal back.
Play 7 heal triggers.
Yeah.
So that's a big reason. Also, it wasn't just for stacking heals. He also could stack your important combo pieces. You could stack your Kurosichis, your Dios. You could stack your Fuyus.
It does great to a greater, right?
Yeah, great to a greater.
Gotcha.
So you could also stack your Popo, which is a play I did a lot. I would resolve Reverence Rush to stack Popo, and then grab Popo with the grade 3 Searcher. Which was oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, when I saw your list and you only had 2 Popo, I was like, wow. I thought you would play like maybe 3, maybe 4.
Yeah, there's
you
actually
only have so much room. That makes sense, though.
There's a good reason for that, though.
Sure. Go for
everything in the list you see is searchable. Any card. And that's all because of Magical Calico.
Yeah.
So what this card says, I'm sure anybody that played in like 2019 is real familiar with this card. It's he's put himself into Soul, discard a card, search your deck for up to 3 cards, and reveal them. Your opponent chooses 2, they go to drop, and 1 goes to your hand. So you show them Popo and maybe some other stuff that you want. And if they put it to your hand, cool.
Yeah. Yep.
If they don't put it to your hand, cool. That's why we play Dio, who will just grab it back from the drop for you. So anything you want is searchable.
That's a good point. You can get in the drop anyway. Yeah.
And what this deck is really about, because I feel it's a very skill-intensive deck, is putting your opponent in as many bad positions as possible, forcing them to make choices where it's like, force them to pick the lesser of 2 or 3 evils. And if they pick the wrong evil, then that's just the worst it gets for them.
That's a good way to put it. I literally felt that way when you did Calico every time.
Yeah, because you'll resolve Calico like 3, 4, maybe even 5 times in a turn.
Yeah.
So your opponent will it really wears on your opponent's mental too, that they don't really know what you're doing. They're like, okay, well,
what's the right decision?
I guess I'll give them this.
That's exactly how I felt.
And you just make your opponent second guess themselves. And that's a big part of the deck. It's a big mental part of the deck. And as you're resolving Calicos and you're approaching your win condition, your opponent probably still won't know what's happening, which I'll explain what's happening in a second.
Yeah, that might be a good idea, actually. Yeah.
But your win condition is to, once you make it to your turn 4, usually I won most of my game in Swiss on turn 4. So once you make it to turn 4, if you have Calico or if you have Omihime, which I'll get to in a second, you want to get your deck to 13 cards. That's your threshold, 13 or less. And to do that, there's 3 ways. It's Calico and Omihime, which this was my spicy tech for the season. I was like, nobody knows what the hell this.
What does it do since it's really small?
It says counterblast 1. She retires herself, and you draw 3 cards. Then at the end of your turn, you discard 3. But that's a fine trade-off because usually that's the end of the game. So
yeah,
just a triple pot of greed.
It's almost like a
And
Hell Demise from Yu-Gi-Oh or something. Yeah.
exactly. And it's just because a lot of your combo discards a lot. So you kind of want to keep your hand healthy because this discards and this discards and Calico discards and she discards. So everything discards a card. So keeping your hand healthy while also getting your deck approaching to where it needs to be, because you can also resolve this card like 3 or 4 times if you really want to. You draw like 12. So there's multiple ways of getting you to your 13 cards in deck. And then you want to set up your crits. So that's when we come to the other half of the combo, where we play cards like Tetramagus, which obviously allows you to stack a crit. That card's been there since the dawn of time. We have Kurasichi, which allows you to do main phase drive checks, which is really important in some games. And we also have Amaterasu, which is a super stacker and a very insane card that I don't know. I mean, it doesn't feel fair when I use it. I'm gonna be honest. Oh yeah, that's the primary combo. You want to deck in yourself down to 13 cards. I know you're wondering why 13 cards, because you usually will swing with your Vanguard first, and when you do, that's when you want to be resolving Popo after. And Popo needs you to be 10 cards or less. So the funny part about the combo is she says at 10 cards, she gets plus 10k, and your opponent can only call zeros from hand. Now, anybody that knows what Stillwater says, Stillwater says act, oracle, flip, and your opponent can't call zeros or G-guards. So it puts them in the lock where this attack is only guardable with Sanctitude. If your opponent does not have Sanctitude, they have to take this attack. I know you're thinking, can you just use a Guardian Shield ticket to block? No, it'll always be bigger than the Guardian Shield ticket. So it's Sanctitude will take, unfortunately. And that can be really scary and oppressive in some people's eyes, because they're like, oh, well, what am I supposed to do if you don't have Sanctitude?
You just take it.
Loose. So, yeah, that's the primary thing. You just turn 3, it turns 1 through 3, value, stay alive, find your pieces, know what you're looking for. That's also why we play Tsukuyomi. I know everybody's looking at the one of Tsukuyomi kind of crazy, like what's happening here. You only play 1 because technically you play 5. Because Sei searches for Tsukuyomi out the deck and rides it.
Oh, I see.
You play 5 copies of Tsukuyomi and just her, because she is an Omni searcher that can grab anything out the top 5, which is insane.
Yeah, it is useful for what you're trying to accomplish. Did you always end up with the 2 Popos, or there were games you had to rely on 1, or? So unless I feel I must absolutely set up 2 Popos to guarantee lethal, I will usually only do 1. I'll usually set up like Amaterasu, Popo, Ichi, swing Amaterasu, set up the triggers on top, which I'll probably already know there's there because there's a bajillion ways to stack. Yeah.
And Popo. But to guarantee a lethal shot, like let's say my opponent's at, I'll just be generous. I'll say my opponent's at 2 damage.
Okay.
My opponent's at 2. I'll go into Stillwater. I will do my entire combo turn, which takes like 10 minutes. Yeah.
I told people that, I don't know, I just sat there for 10 minutes. I thought I was getting looped and that I didn't go. He kept me going, and then finally he just critted me to death. And everybody's like, for 10 minutes? I'm like, it felt like, you said it yourself, it's 10 minutes.
It's around 10 minutes. It can be like 8 to 10 minutes. I'm always making sure I'm not slow playing, guys. I'm always
you're pretty quick and efficient.
So it can be a little weird to navigate for like a new OTT player.
Oh yeah, I can do
Turn
that.
can be a bit tricky to navigate, but my usual kill turn would look like Amaterasu Popo, set up triggers, swing van, triggers either on van or on Popo, because uncommon knowledge, if you're not a protect deck, this card can be quite hard to block.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're getting swung at for 49 with a crit, no zeros, no G guards.
Yeah.
It leaves you in a situation where you're like, okay, I can dump my entire hand to give this thing a 2 to pass, because there's almost no way you're giving it a 3 to pass. Or I can just eat.
Yeah. So
and,
you can one-shot them from 2 still, from all the stacking and activating triggers too. I gotcha.
Yes, I always make sure I put this one in the crit by resolving the Amaterasu reveal, which gives it a crit. And I go, okay, swing Ichi, 2 crit. If you're at 2, this might be lethal. The amount of people that will just look at their hand and go, okay, no guard. And then I go, okay, crit, power to Popo, crit, power to Popo, crit, power to Popo. And it's a bit of a tilting way to lose.
They're being crit to death, but like you like stacked it on purpose. That's the
I
beauty
knew it was
of
already there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So someone's like, oh, he sacked me. I'm like, I mean, I did.
I would just, made it sackable. I don't know.
But the real like power kill play in this deck is this card. This card is like the best.
Red OT.
Yes. If you still have this in deck going to your kill turn, if you can resolve Calico enough to get yourself to 10 cards in deck before drive check, you can almost guarantee your OT. Because what you do is you thing yourself down to 10, then you start resolving Say, which says if your opponent's grade 3 or greater, put one of your grade 2 or less rear guards into Soul. Look at top 2 cards of your deck, choose up to 2 cards from among them, put them on top in any order, and put the rest on the bottom. Yeah. So you look, no OT. Okay, well, I have 10 cards, so I'll put these 2 to the bottom. Resolve another one. No OT. Okay, I'll put these 2 to the bottom. Then
there's the stacking. Yeah.
Yep. And
you're digging for it.
You can look at one more card. Doesn't have to be with Say. And you'll go, okay. Well, now I know the OT is in these next 3 cards, just by process of elimination.
Yep.
And you will guaranteed win. There is no living. I haven't seen it myself. Somebody survive a 3 crit Popo, restand, and another 3 crit. So yeah, you will guaranteed kill your opponent. The only real bad matchup, which is what I was saying earlier, is granblue, is because they can hard search Sanctitude, which is your biggest kryptonite. That's true.
Hence, Green Shade can be greedy about it.
It's true. Can be greedy about it. So they'll big Obadiah. They'll find like a grade 1 PG if they don't have protect markers already, which they should. They'll find usually Cannoneer, because I don't know, they always look for Cannoneer for some odd reason.
They just want to have it just in case.
Exactly. I mean, even though like you can't G-guard in this matchup, they still search for it out. I don't know. It's a weird obsession, but
it's a weird obsession.
It's a weird obsession with Cannoneer.
That's going to put it.
So then they search for Sanctum. I'm like, oh, okay, well. But as the OTT player, right, if you see him do that, you have to take a different route. That's when you stride into Momo, which anybody familiar with Momo is, this is deep release. So you resolve Calico, you look in deck, you pull out all 3 of your Amaterasu, pull out all of them, and give your Momo plus 30 and 3 crit. So your Momo will be restanding, because Momo also gives plus 30 to the front. So you'll be swinging for a minimum of 80k
Yeah, so big.
with 4 damage. So that'll pull that Sanctitude out of there.
Yeah, you were gonna force it out. I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's smart actually.
They won't. It's lethal, so they won't take damage, which means they won't have the excess counter blast to counter push you in their big ship combo turn.
Bad bounty. Yep.
So that's very important. Just this deck is all about just knowing what your opponent deck does, because you do have to play a bit differently in every matchup.
Mm-hmm.
So having a good idea of what your opponent's deck is capable of, like when I played Commander Jaime, I was like, okay, well, Nubatama doesn't really have anything super scary defensively like OTT. They are more so playing with my pieces. So I kept what I wanted him to have on my board. I was like, I'm not gonna give him anything too strong. I'm not gonna
I'm gonna make him work for it.
I'm gonna make him work for it. So that was a big part of it. I mean, he bricked, so it wasn't like as good of a game as it should have been.
Are you talking about me or somebody else?
No, you bricked, because you didn't ride your grade 3 going first.
Yeah, it was weird. I think if I remember correctly, I did the V to get the protect marker.
Yes.
In the first place. Because when you got to this turn, you had 2 Popos, 13 cards left in deck. I think you activated a crit trigger at least once or twice. And I was like, okay, can I use a protect marker for the Vanguard at least? And you're like, yeah, you can. And I'm like, okay, cool. Now deal with the Popos. And I'm like, I legit can't stop any of them. And I was at 3. And I think both of them were a crit 3.
Yes.
So I went to 3 to 6 and that was GG. Even if I lived with a heal, I couldn't stop the second Popo.
And that's what a big part of the gambling comes in, which is why I said at worst it's 50%, because they have to still find the Sanctitude, right? If you're not playing against granblue, which you can still win by playing smart.
Yeah, even if I had that Sanctitude that turn, I still would have lost, because you had the second Popo. Yeah. And
they were both 3 crit. And that's one of the situations I was talking about. It's like, unless I absolutely must set up double Popo, I'll usually just set up 1, so I can guarantee the crits. But that's a big part of like why when I looked at the landscape on the format, I was like, oh, there's not too many decks to answer this. Narukami, a big deck. They have no out. Naru players love taking damage because they want to resolve other skills with Steve, so they'll just eat damage when they shouldn't be eating damage. And when I do my turn, they'll look at their big hand after drawing 50 million cards. They'll go, okay, I can live. I don't know what you're doing, but I can live.
That's what you think, right? Yeah, I guess.
But your hand size doesn't matter when I can just
say no.
Hit the light switch on your hand, and now your 15 card hand is really.
Like, you're literally a better Nubatama. Like Mizukazu's scary, but like yours is just no.
This is just. I personally don't know how still water is still legal.
Yeah.
I don't know how still water is still legal, but I don't know. Maybe this will get choice restricted in the future, but we still have other ways. They would have to hit Tom. And it's just a slippery slope of a bunch of things.
Choice restrictions, basically. Yeah.
If you really want to like hit the problem in a nutshell, just get this thing out of here.
Yeah, that's true.
But from what I'm seeing, everybody feels that LTT is like a high tier 2 deck. I mean,
in your eyes, you don't see it that way?
I don't. I mean, to be fair, I'm an OTT apologist, so I'll always say it's a little bit better than what it actually is.
Oh, okay, gotcha. But still, like it's really solid, actually, and I think it was a good meta call, which kind of leads me into my next specific question: is that now that you feel like your deck is kind of well known at this point, like even if your opponent knows your big play, do you think that really changes anything? I don't think so, right?
I don't, because even if my opponent knows like okay, they know what's happening. They know I'm going into Popo Ichi.
Right. Like, what can they really do, right?
Just because you can see someone holding a gun doesn't mean you're going to be able to dodge the bullet. So, like, you'll know it's coming, but it'll still boil down to, did you draw Sanctitude?
Yeah, basically. And if you don't have the second Popo, right? And if you're at low enough damage to take one or something. Yeah.
Exactly. Because if you didn't draw Sanctitude, you lose at 2. 2 is lethal. So it's Sanctitude to die at 2, which 2 is not okay. Nobody should be dying from 2 on turn 4.
I feel like maybe the only hard matchup would be if somebody playing in a similar manner. I faced a Fenrir player that was really good. He used Reverence Dragon too as well to stay at basically 0-1 damage. And I mean, with Fenrir, there's a little bit of stacking too, offensively or defensively. So like you can kind of play that game against each other in a way. But I don't know how that would work out. I feel like your offensive is much stronger though for Genesis compared to Genesis though.
Yeah, it's weird though, right? Because when I was looking at Fenrir, I was like, oh, okay, they play kind of similar to us. They want to stack their heals, they want to stay low, generate resources, and then kill you in like a bang turn. But that's the thing. OTT puts out a surprising amount of pressure early.
Yeah,
like,
that's him.
I'll just be at grade 1. I'll be like, okay, call this top 5. Would you look at that? I hit an Amaterasu plus 10k in a crit to my van.
Yeah, you did that to me.
With crit on turn 1.
Yeah, you did that to me. I forgot what I used to guard it or I took it. I can't remember.
I think you used the heal guard. I believe you used the heal guard and you went minus.
I think so. Yeah.
So that's obviously a way out. But if you wasn't lucky enough to draw a heal guard on your first turn,
yeah,
you might just go straight to lethal. So it's small stuff like that. It puts out a lot of scary aggression. It forces your opponent to guard early.
Oh, that's really good. Yeah.
And I don't know. I just think it's a great deck this format. I don't see it being bad anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree. I think it has some longevity in the metagame for sure, unless something crazy comes out at this point.
Exactly. And my worst matchup loses to a very popular deck, which is not granblue, Mega Colony. And yeah, that's fine because I can't really lose to Mega Colony. They have no way to really kill me. And that just leaves me open to having multiple attempts at Ishishima turns. And multiple attempts at Ishishima turns means death. So
I guess the only way to stop you is maybe if they blister on your Vanguard attack, right?
Oh, yeah. So my opponent did attempt this. He did blister my Popo, which is fine, right? But that's the thing. The following turn, I was like, okay.
Oh, so it delayed a turn.
Yeah, it delayed me a turn because he had Protect. And I didn't have the pieces to get low enough to actually turn on my Popo. So I did a false Ichi turn that was still presenting lethal. And then on my following turn, I was like, okay. Stride, Ichi. I put myself to 10 pre-drive check. And he was already at 4. Then I was like, okay, Popo. Sanctitude, no Sanctitude. He had already burned it earlier in the game.
Yeah.
Popo, again, he can't guard it, obviously. He burned his Sanctitude on my false Ichi turn.
Yeah.
And then he just died. And that's the problem with Mega Colony. They have no way to kill. So even if they survive Ichi turn, how do you kill in Mega Colony? You kill by your opponent not playing the game, which...
Oh, yeah, their game plan. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, that's how you win. You win by out advantaging your opponent because they can't play the game.
Right.
But I can play the game.
Right. It's doable. It's grindy a little bit. It may delay you a turn if they have it, but you could still finish it off.
It's true. But it really only delayed a turn because I didn't have Kelly Cook.
Oh, that too. If you don't have other combo pieces to proceed with your next turn. Yeah, that makes sense.
True. Which, I mean, obviously, right? Every deck has their brick conditions.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like
pros and cons. Yep.
If I don't see a Calico or a Omahime or like a way to get into those cards, then I'll feel pretty bad about myself. But a ton of stuff in this deck searches. So you play all your search cards. You'll usually find your piece between this and this. You'll usually find your piece. You only need to see one. Damage check it. That's me finding it, because I will just heal it out and then I'll add it back to him.
That's a good point. And Dio grabs it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's really good, like synergy overall with your deck, and especially with even Dio adding that consistency there too.
Absolutely.
Is there anything you want to say about your deck list, or that's pretty much it?
I mean, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't know if I would change it. I think I'm gonna keep it like this the whole season. I still have more events coming up, but this is how I would play personally. I mean, if anybody wants to play it and make changes, I would love to see how everybody changes it around and what they're going to do.
They'll probably try to tweak it to their preference or something. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's always good to see. It gives you a wider point of view of what you can do with your own deck. Yeah. So I would love to see how anybody else changes it.
I'm curious too. Yeah, definitely. I would say this to you too as well. When you and I faced off, it was round 6, I believe.
Yes.
And at that point, I knew that both of us were X1. And when I found out it was OTT, I instantly connected the dots and like this is not only a good player, but this player can be a high caliber player, especially since he's playing a deck like OTT. Like, you're already this far in the Swiss rounds. And to be honest, you gave this vibe where you're just having the time of your life. Yep, sure. Yeah, you're very chill, straight to the point. I'm like, this guy is quite the character in a way. But I was like, okay, good, positive attitude, and which leads me to also like, what happened in top 8? Like, did you want to go over that or?
Oh yeah. So in top 8, it was a pretty sad way to go out. Because as I mentioned earlier, Nar was one of my best matchups. But I played against Michael, I believe that was his name. Okay. And Michael went first. I was like, okay. I drew my hand. I had the perfect hand. I was like, okay, I'll keep. We're going through the motions of the game. I draw for turn. I draw a crit. And unfortunately, that crit was the last trigger I seen in that game. I went from 1 to 6 on his grade 3 turn. No defensives. No shield in hand to guard. No crits, no heals. Nothing to block. And I mean, he just went into his V turn, his history turn, slammed down the board. I had no shield in hand, had no defenses, 15 triggers in deck, and I died on grade 2.
Wow, that is tragic. Yeah.
So it's quite the way to go out. When I looked at my deck at the very end, I was like, where are all my triggers? I pick up top 5 of my deck. 3 heals and 2 crits.
There they are.
I found them. A card too late. I already lost.
That's rough. Gotcha.
But Michael's a great player. I mean, I don't take anything away from him. He's still qualified for Worlds. So
you get to see him later anyway. Maybe you can have the rematch off screen.
Maybe. I hope I qualify for Premium. It's the format I really want to play, but it's hell of a player. I can take nothing away from him. I just wish that we could have had a better game.
No, I feel you. We've had those games. I understand. Like, just players, like, it could have been a better game. No, I understand.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a big mental part of Vanguard. Like,
it really is. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. It's really insightful with your deck too, and I feel like a lot of people are going to get value from it and the mindset behind it too. And just to like start wrapping up the interview, you know, what are some things that you learned for yourself or maybe reaffirmed after the whole weekend?
One thing I did learn, because my problem is like, I usually in big events, I would perform well. Like the first 5 rounds, I would be like XO. But after I took my first loss, I would always lose again. And I felt like that just came from a place of tilt. Because I would really just get in my own head after one loss. I'd be like, wow, okay, now I have to win the rest of them or I'm not going to top. Of course, it always happens right at the very end. It was just, I don't know, a lot of negative thoughts really flow into my head at that point. And but that weekend was different. I took my loss to my friend Curtis, and I was like, of course. I was like, but you know what? No, I'm gonna win the rest of my games. I'm gonna keep pushing. And that's exactly what I did. I won the rest of my games. I kept pushing into top 8. In top 8, losing that first top 8 game did teach me another thing too. It's like it hurts to get that far and then die like that, but you just gotta stay positive and keep your head up. I was like, well, okay, I don't really play V, but there's always tomorrow.
Yeah.
And, I came the next day and I got my Worlds invite. So,
yeah, there's always the next event, or in your case, it was the next day.
So there's always another event ahead.
Yep.
So I don't know, just try to stay positive throughout the rounds. Don't get in your own head. Vanguard can be a big mental game at times, especially
it is.
You. And, it's really bad if you just start letting your thoughts cloud your judgment in the games. When you should be focusing on the game itself, not whether if you're, oh man, how am I going to make top 8?
All these things that, we all want to make top 8, we all want to qualify, but like, there's something you have to focus in the moment to get there, right? Yeah,
exactly. And just try to have fun at the events, man. I was having a great time just walking around trading, and that's like half the fun right there, is just trading. So I don't know, just do anything that just keep your mind up. Obviously, like keep your mind determined, play your games well. But outside of the rounds, man, go talk with. If you have any friends there, go talk to your friends. Ask them how their rounds doing. Just unwind a little bit. Yeah. Because the less pressure you feel, then the better you'll play.
Absolutely. You perform better relaxed, is what I've seen with people. That kind of bleeded into my next questions. Like, what advice would you give for people that are struggling, getting their first top? Would you mention basically that mental part, that attitude, or did you want to add onto that a little more?
Oh, for sure. I mean, because getting your first top can always be the hardest one, right? Because like that's the icebreaker.
Yeah.
And, for me, that was last year in BRO. I had got 3rd in premium with Nightmare Dolls, and
nice.
That first one could be huge, man. Because when I made top, I was like, oh my god, I'm here. So you'll be overly excited, but you also gotta
still play.
Kind of tell yourself like, hey, job's not done.
yeah, basically, yeah.
Job not finished.
Yeah.
So anybody looking to get their first like top 8 or Worlds invite, honestly, just pick a deck you like. You don't have to play meta. Everybody's like, oh, I play the best deck, do this, do that. But if you feel confident in your deck, you feel like you can play your deck well into the sea of decks that are out. I've seen a good pilot of like not so great decks win. Like the MLB player, I don't think that deck is very great in standard, but 2 MLB players took their favorite deck and won. So don't let nobody tell you that you can't play your favorite deck and still get your top. That's
absolutely.
One thing I have to feel. Everyone's like, oh, you should play Naru or you should play Neo Nectar. I was like, I don't want to play Neo Nectar. I don't like that. So
it never pans out sometimes for me in Swiss. Like I expect certain like decks, and then I end up facing maybe 1 or 2 of them, and then a bunch of like variety I never thought of. You know, I don't know if you have the same experiences.
that you'll be like super preparing for like all the meta stuff, right? But then you'll play some of the most random jank stuff you've ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
Like, what is happening?
And now you're learning like on the go. Too.
And now you're learning on the fly. That's the great part about like not just premium but at Vanguard. I mean, you'll be testing with your friends. You'll be like, okay, well, I gotta get ready for Melissa, Candiva, and all these meta decks, and then you load up in the event and like, oh, I'm playing against Luke here.
Yeah, some random thing that you didn't expect at all. Yeah, exactly. No, I get it.
And then,
your video camera just froze a little bit. I think that's telling you to wrap up, I guess. It's all good. So no, thanks for sharing that advice. Essentially for the viewers, you know, it's like there's always the next event if you don't do too well. There's what's the word I'm looking for? You always remember your first top. Oh, you're back now. Okay, cool.
Oh, okay, cool.
You always remember your first event, your first top. You know, especially if you qualify for Worlds, that's super big. And then just like the confidence in the deck that you bring to the event is like one of the most key factors in just topping. Like, yes, you can quote unquote play the best deck, but like if you're not really confident in it or you're not feeling it, you're gonna have a bad time more than likely. I've done that before, and it's just best to play like the deck that you want to play and feeling confident behind the preparation you did with it, and it'll get you far. In fact, you know, like you said, some people have won the whole thing.
Exactly.
So awesome. Thanks again for coming out. Lastly, do you want to do any shout outs?
Yeah, I'll just shout out all my people in Vegas, man. My team, White Lotus, that I run, and I appreciate all my members. But yeah, man, shout out to everybody in Vegas, bro, who really pushed me up in the Discord.
You guys are a good crew.
Yeah, it was just surreal time. So shout out to all of them, man.
Awesome, man. And a special thanks to John and Christian too for like making this happen too. I know you and I connected a little bit and they kind of helped out a little bit with that too. So special shout out to them.
It's true.
Awesome. Well, that's all I got for today. So thanks again for hopping on the channel for the interview. And for you amigos, on to the next one. Bye.